Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, the Auditor-General's recent report on the Territory Coordinator radio advertisement found that your government breached the Public Information Act by promoting party political interests and providing misleading information about the role of the Territory Coordinator. Chief Minister, given the findings, how can Territorians believe that your government is using taxpayer dollars in a justified way? Chief Minister, can you justify using taxpayer funds for an advertisement that undermines public trust and fails to meet the standards of transparency, accountability which you promised before the Territory election?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Leader of the Opposition for the question. And of course, the Territory has an Auditor-General to undertake a range of functions. Some of those are audit functions on the books and others relate to public information. Now, the finding that was tabled and indeed made by the Auditor-General is certainly noted, Opposition Leader. It's a finding against the department, and obviously they're taking that feedback on board. I believe the Auditor-General took concern with language in there about government delivering its election commitments, and so that's certainly, obviously the people in the department are taking that very seriously, and it's an important function. As you would know, Opposition Leader, a couple of years ago, the Auditor-General, the previous Auditor-General found a document you'd tabled in the Parliament about equality to have breached the Public Information Act. You were found to have breached it, and you disagreed at the time with the Auditor-General about that breach, but nonetheless it's certainly something that happens, Madam Speaker, and I'm reliably informed that the agency has taken that on board, Madam Speaker. But what I will say about the Territory Coordinator is just how wonderful it was to table that in Parliament today. Yeah. And so now Territorians have the opportunity to not only go through the consultation summary, which we also transparently published, but to see the final shape of the bill that we pulled together, of that collective effort to rebuild the Territory's economy. And so now it's been referred to the Legislative Scrutiny Committee, again a transparency measure that the CLP government has brought into this Parliament, along with a lobbyist register and an independent speaker, and doubling the time for debate on petition, because we are committed very much to involving Territorians in the work of our government. And so we look forward to seeing what the Legislative Scrutiny Committee does. This will be their first inquiry under the new government, and so it will be fantastic to receive that feedback. That report will be completed by the 12th of March so that government has that time to be able to see what is in the report prior to obviously that legislation being introduced into the Parliament. Being ready for debate and passage in the Parliament the following week, Madam Speaker. We are very proud to be delivering reform on a scale that the Territory has never seen before. And this is about providing jobs and opportunities for everyday Territorians. It's about supporting small business to continue to have people come through their doors, create new opportunities now and into the future. It's about a sustainable pathway for the Territory so that we can continue to deliver the services that Territorians expect and deserve, and we're very proud, Madam Speaker.
Member for Blaine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, reducing crime and antisocial behaviour across the Territory remains a key focus of our government. In my electorate of Blaine, I know when we see welfare payments, we see a spike in antisocial behaviour. I'm interested to see what we can do in this space to help reduce crime and antisocial behaviour, not only in my own electorate of Blaine, but also across the Northern Territory. Chief Minister, can you please explain if our CLP plan to reduce crime, including looking at Centrelink when Centrelink payments are made, has received any support at the federal level?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Blaine for his question. I know that certainly out there in Palmerston, people are sick and tired of high levels of crime under Labor, and they're willing to try anything that will support a safer community. And I also note the hard work we've done on our reducing crime laws, and I've just given notice of more powers for police for debate at a later stage. And so this is the work of the government we're doing in response to the concerns of communities like yours, Member for Blaine, because it isn't good enough what they've been served up under 8 years of Labor. And to that end, people in Alice Springs have just had the most horrific time. Labor's turned their back on them. We haven't seen projects being delivered. And of course, we've seen crime completely dominate the narrative, destroy the town's reputation, gut its tourism industry, and people are leaving as a result of it. And people are absolutely demoralised. But we very quickly stood up Operation Ludlow, a fugitive task force, and really surged into that town to provide a consistent and comprehensive response. Now, as part of being out on the ground in Alice Springs, as I've been a number of times, and when I'm in Alice, it's I'm out non-stop on the ground talking to people, mobile officers, out on the front line with police, out in the streets. We are out everywhere asking everyone, what's going on? How can we help? What are the next steps? And so a collective result of that was a 7-point plan I put to the federal government and the federal coalition. And I'm very pleased to say that 2 Alice Springs visits ago, the federal opposition leader of the coalition, Peter Dutton, was in Alice Springs and made that in principle support to all 7 of our recommendations. And that was very warmly received by the community because they felt like they were being heard. The 7 points include aligning Centrelink payment days with alcohol-free days in Alice Springs, and we saw the success of that alignment over the Christmas period. For example, we want to have compulsory work and training programs with fortnightly reporting obligations for Centrelink recipients. We want performance audits of federally funded programs, royalty distributions. People in that town want those distributions done on community, not in the town. We need CASA exemptions, and I have to say the Prime Minister was very, very quick to move on the CASA exemptions, and it has made a world of difference to police in Alice Springs. Credit where credit's due. I'm working with the government on the remainder of the 7. One of them is back in our court to work through, but the rest have received a tepid or lukewarm response, Member for Blaine, but we continue to work in good faith with the federal government, but very, very strong message from the coalition that they're listening to people in Alice Springs and they've signed up to all 7, which is great news for that town.
Member for Daly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before I start my question to the Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure, I would like to just acknowledge the 100 people or so that attended Parliament House this morning to hand me this petition today, so that it shows the importance to roads in their community. So, Minister, in November sittings last year, I asked your government to confirm its commitment to fully sealing the Port Keats Road between Wadeye and Palumpa, a project which is a critical access and safety priority for residents, as well as providing local jobs. At the time, the Chief Minister said on your behalf, "I can get you an answer and it can be on the public record." I'm still waiting for that answer, Minister. Minister, members of the West Daly community have travelled here today to ask that this project, which is largely funded by the federal government, also continues to receive funding support from your government. Minister, will you honour the commitment to fund upgrades to the Port Keats Road?
Minister for Infrastructure and Logistics.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Daly for the question. And I thought I gave an answer to the member for Daly about this back in, I think it was the first sittings in October as well, but I'm here again answering the same question. But, Madam Speaker, less than a year ago, the previous Chief Minister, Eva Lawler, was patting herself on the back for securing federal funding for the Port Keats Road. She bragged that her government would seal the Port Keats Road between Wadeye and Palumpa and saying, I quote, "The Lawler Labor government is delivering stronger and safer and more reliable roads for all Territorians," which is at odds from what she said back in 2020 to the then member for Daly, Mr Gary Higgins, that the sealing of the Wadeye Road was not a priority for her government. But anyway. And yet there are leaders here from the Wadeye community today because the Lawler Labor government did not deliver stronger, safer and more reliable roads. And to them, I say sorry. I say sorry that the Labor government failed you and that your local member has trudged you out here today to find answers for something that he already knows about. Madam Speaker, the former government are trying to rewrite history and are not being truthful with communities like Wadeye. The upgrading and sealing of the Port Cooch Road has been included in Labor's budget every year since the member for Darley began representing his community in 2021. In 2021, the government had 59.6. In 22, they had 59.9. In 23, they had 60.2. And in 24, they had set aside 60 million. For 4 consecutive years, Madam Speaker, Labor have featured the upgrading and sealing of the Port Cooch Road in their shiny, useless budget book.
Please resume your seat. Member for Daly.
Thank you,
The
Madam
Minister
Speaker.
is responding completely in a relevant way. I'm just curious to know what your point of order is.
Madam Speaker, the question is pretty direct. The question is, will you honour the commitment to fund upgrades to the Port Keats Road? He's going on a big spiel. All the community members want to know is, will he honour that funding?
Member for Daly, take your seat. The Minister is answering your question and he's got plenty of time.
I was wondering if I could get my other 15 seconds back, Madam Speaker. That would be great, because I've got a bit to get through. But, Madam Speaker, I think the member for Daly is pretty bold for asking me this question and should be asking himself why he can't front up to his community and tell them why he's failed to get the Port Cooch Road sealed when the money's been sitting there for years. And what the member for Daly has forgotten to tell the community of Wadeye is that the Commonwealth only gave its permission to release the funds for this project on the 20th of August 2024, 4 days before the NT election. The member for Daly should have known that. And again, what the member for Daly has failed to tell Wadeye is that DLI is still in negotiation with the Northern Land Council for access to gravel, layoffs and water along the 47-kilometre route. Madam Speaker, my advice is that the NLC is seeking that the NTG pay for water along that route, a position not agreed to by the previous government nor by this government. Again, the member for Daly knows that. This is work that should have been done by Labor years ago and they failed to do it. But what I can say to for the people from Wadeye that are here today, we are meeting with them today to hear their concerns because the Labor government and their local member has dragged their feet and failed to follow through on their promises. To the people of Wadeye I say, the CLP government will honour this project and no, the funding has not been pulled, and yes, the CLP government will deliver this project because it's a federally funded program by the Australian government.
Time has expired. Member for Fong Lim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is also to the Treasurer. Treasurer, yesterday our government passed the payroll tax amendment bill and delivered on yet another election commitment for Territorians. This is amazing news, and all the more so because the bill, I note, passed with the bipartisan support of this House recognising the sense in our economic policy. Treasurer, it was my great pleasure to accompany you this morning into my great electorate of Fong Lim, to Winnellie specifically, to visit Delta Electrics, a great local hard-working business, and I'm delighted to note for the House that Delta Electrics noted for us today that as a result of our payroll tax reforms, they are looking to expand and put on more electrical and refrigeration apprentices. Shout out to Anthony and his team for sharing that information with us. This is skilled workforce that we require. Treasurer, can you please tell us how we will see even more benefits to our local small and medium-sized businesses when our payroll tax changes fully kick in on the 1st of July?
Treasurer.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the member for the question, and thank you, member for Fong Lim, for joining me this morning at Delta Electric. It was very good and it was great to be able to see a business that is going to reap the benefits of the payroll tax changes that we passed in our parliament yesterday. And I know that his electorate has many small businesses, and I'm glad to hear that these reforms are already being taken up by local businesses, Madam Speaker. However, Madam Speaker, I'm not surprised that these reforms have already started to benefit the community, because this is what happens when governments back small business. And with this bill that we passed, the CLP is going further to back small businesses so that all employees with wage bills below 7.5 million will experience tangible savings from the next financial year and going forward. Businesses with wage liabilities under 2.5 million could possibly save up to $68,000 per annum. And businesses, Madam Speaker, with wage liabilities between 2.5 and 7.5 million could save on average up to $19,400 per annum. That's a total of $17 million that the CLP government is saving small businesses and putting back into their pockets. That's $17 million, Madam Speaker, that businesses can invest in themselves and invest in their people the way that they see fit. That's $17 million that the Labor government failed to invest into the Territory and into our economy. Instead, Labor saw our economy slump to record lows for the last 6 years and didn't do anything about it. Whilst Labor did nothing to reverse this slump, the CLP has passed this legislation to rebuild our economy. Through these changes, Madam Speaker, to payroll tax and these benefits will bring to our economy, we're sending a strong, clear message to Territorians and the rest of Australia that the Territory is open for business. Not only does this bill put money back into the Territory economy, but the payroll tax exemptions for trainee and apprenticeship wages are much needed incentives for employers to skill up Territorians and create jobs where they are absolutely needed. As Minister for Housing Construction, I'm acutely aware of the skill shortages in the housing industry and the difficulties that they face. These shortages mean that builders who want to build and get supply into the market are constrained because they don't have the skilled workforce, Madam Speaker. This bill is a game changer for industries like housing construction. They will be able to bring on the staff they need to equip them and with the skills to contribute to growing our economy. Territorians are calling out for action on these issues after slogging under Labor's inaction for years, and we are delivering. We've looked at the numbers, Madam Speaker. We've listened to Territory business, and unlike Labor, we've brought in this legislation to help businesses grow and rebuild our economy and open the Territory up to being the place to do business. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Corrections. Minister for Corrections, yesterday you said in relation to the fencing of the Stringybark facility, and I quote from Hansard, in relation to that fence, it is not $1 million, it is over $6 million to get that fence put up. Minister, can you confirm that this is in fact the cost to fence the whole of the Berrima Correctional Centre and not just the Stringybark facility? Thank you.
Minister for Corrections.
Thank you for the question. And look, ultimately, Member for Johnson, the CLP government is about protecting Territorians. And we are going to do what it takes to make sure the Territory is a safe place to be. And I want to make sure that it's very clear that if you commit a crime in the Northern Territory, we're going to find a bed for you. There's no question about that, because that's what Territorians want. And they, August last year, sent a really loud and voiceable lesson to everyone in here that that's what we need to do. That's their number one priority, and we're going to work hard to make sure the community is safe. So in relation to Stringybark, Member for Johnson, that's a site that was previously used as a life skills unit. It was a low security, and then it was transformed into some rehab and basically a place where you go with your sober up shelter, along with some other services. Since then, that facility has been basically left to go. There's been no work done to it, and the $6 million that I spoke about includes getting it ready to use as a facility to hold prisoners. That's going to include fire upgrades, mechanical ventilation upgrades, CCT upgrades, ICT connectivity, and also connectivity to government work, strengthening doors and rooms, installation and commissioning of intercoms, bathroom upgrades and modifications, plumbing, electrical, painting, general business works, and of course upgrading the security fence. So it's a bigger project in relation to getting that project up and running, when ultimately the CLP plan is to make Holtz the area, the precinct for prisons. That's where we're going to move, because we know that the previous Labor government left us in $11 billion worth of debt. We don't have a massive amount of money to spend on these correction officers and these correction facilities, because the previous Labor government stuffed it up so badly that we just haven't got a big fat cheque to spend. So it's all about efficiency, Member for Johnson, to move into one area so we can make sure that we offer the better service to rehabilitate some of these prisoners. Because remember, I know the Labor government failed to break the cycle of offending, but that's another one of our priorities. We want to make sure that if you're a prisoner and you're in prison, that you get access to rehabilitation, you get access to education, and you get access to service to make you a better person when you come out. Because it's not only about putting someone in a cell and leaving them there for whatever term that the judges ordered, it's about rehabilitation. And we know that through staff shortages, some of those services have been cut at the moment. but we want to make sure that the whole prison facility is better, and we need to do that by efficiencies. And using just that Stringy Butt complex is not in our master plan. We want to move everything out to Holtz, so we want to make sure we don't just waste taxpayers' money. We know the Labor government loved doing that, and they were very good at it, and there's a whole string of examples about that, but we're about moving the prison precincts to Holtz to make sure that that's good for the Territory economy.
Member for Drysdale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Housing. Minister, in the suburb of Grey in my electorate of Drysdale, we've experienced totally unacceptable levels of crime and antisocial behaviour. I've met with you, the Chief Minister, police and government agencies to address this issue, which have had a significant impact on the residents in Drysdale. Nuisance public drinking, alcohol abuse and high-density problem public housing are often key drivers of many of the law and order issues we experience in Grey. Minister, can you please explain the actions our government will take in 2025 to address these root causes of crime, and how this will help improve antisocial behaviour in Grey and other areas of the Territory too?
Minister for Housing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Drysdale for this question. I know he's passionate about reducing crime and doing everything he can to help the constituents feel safe. And I must say that getting out on the ground with the member for Drysdale, the member for Blaine, the member for Karama, and there are other members in here where I've been out to visit some of the issues around public housing. I must say that includes Catherine, Tennant Creek and Alice Springs. Madam Speaker, the member is right. We have seen a spike in antisocial behaviour and serious incidences of crime in our public housing. And it's not just in Grey, it's right around the Northern Territory. Sadly and unacceptably, it's a right across the suburbs in Palmerston, and having been out there to meet regularly with the MLAs, I really do want to thank them for raising these issues. But I want to reiterate from the outset, Madam Speaker, that this level of crime is completely unacceptable, and it does not meet the expectations of the community. In fact, when I go out there, I hear directly from constituents how angry they are. And I'll tell you what, it makes me angry as well, because I've seen it day in, day out, not only in Palmerston, but right around the Northern Territory. Our government is fully aware of what's going on, and we're focused on dealing with the root causes of crime when it comes to public housing and crime around the Territory. Sadly, over the last 8 years, Madam Speaker, the philosophical ideology of the Labor government has been watering down of accountability and a lack of consequences for this behaviour. The pendulum has swung far too far in defending the rights of the individuals, and we're going to be taking action. In 2025, we'll be taking action on public housing reform. We will be looking at the Residential Tenancies Act, member for Drysdale, and we'll be looking at how to align that with community expectations. Madam Speaker, the visitor management, tenancy management and red card policy all needs review. It's been allowed to get out of control for far too long. The red card policy, Madam Speaker, we've been looking at that very carefully. One particular matter has been brought to my attention where one tenant had 62 red card demerit points under Labor and was allowed to continue living in that house. This has all been allowed to happen while there's been 8 to 10 year wait lists, people on that wait list that have been looking for housing and looking to do the right thing. Madam Speaker, this year we'll be taking action. We're working with MLAs, we're working with the people in the Territory to strengthen the policy so that we can evict when we need to.
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education. Minister, before the election, the Chief Minister told Territorians that her ministers would divest themselves of all shares and would be ready to govern without conflicts of interest. According to the Parliament Register of Interest, you only divested yourself of your Telstra and Bendigo Bank shares last week after being caught out by the NT Independent. Minister, while Territorians have been facing a cost of living crisis, You failed to declare a free luxury jet flight from Katherine to Darwin for a champagne brunch with your friends, and promoted the private charter company that was gifted to you, the trip, on your MLA Facebook page. Minister, how can Territorians have faith in your integrity?
Minister for Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So in regard to the question, thank you, Opposition Leader. My shares have been...
Please take your seat, Minister. Point of order. Member for Goyder.
Point of order. The interjection from the member for Daly was disorderly language. I don't think that's appropriate in this chamber.
Yes, I did hear that, and it was a bit low level. Could you just withdraw it? You were implying your inference was very inappropriate. Sorry? Could you withdraw it, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just taking note that she tripped over, but anyway, I'll withdraw.
Thank you. Minister, you have the call.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, my shares have been divested and the relevant forms to update my register of interest have been signed and submitted. And as a Member of Parliament for nearly 5 years now, and as a Minister, I've always acted with integrity and morals and will continue to do so. But, you know, I think, Madam Speaker, it's very rich coming from the opposition leader to raise these issues, given their history when they were in government. Their former Chief Minister, Natasha Fyles, resigned after a series of integrity issues. And let's not also forget the member for Gwodja, who purchased shares in a major wholesaler that supplies alcohol to Central Australian bottle shops 2 months before letting alcohol bans lapse in the region. So, you know, they moved heaven and earth, Madam Speaker, to block the ICAC investigation into the member for Gwodja's shareholders at the time and what his motives were. So I'd just like to put on the record that I do operate with the highest of morals and integrity, Madam Speaker, and I've done what was asked of me and what is meant to be done as a minister, and I will continue to operate with morals and integrity. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Supplementary, Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary to the Minister for Education. Minister, why did it take you 6 months to divest those shares?
Minister for Education.
I think I've answered the question. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Gwodja.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Lands, Planning and the Environment. Minister, according to the member's declarations of interest, Minister, you have served as a committee member with the Alice Springs Community Garden, a great garden established with the support of the Arid Lands Environment Centre. Given your government's decision and the decision you made recently to cut funding to ALEC and similar organisations, dismissing them as activist and economic vandals, did you declare this conflict of interest when this decision was made? And how do you justify your personal support for these local initiatives while pushing policies that undermine their protections of our environment, Minister? Minister, why do you not support the environmental organisations in the Northern Territory?
Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Gwodja for his question. Madam Speaker, I have been very clear that I will not enable green lawfare to continue to delay economic progress, which is why I have also terminated taxpayer-funded support for the Environment Centre NT and the Arid Lands Environment Centre. These agreements saw the ECNT and ALEC receive $100,000, Madam Speaker, per year since 2016. This follows an announcement by this government last year to terminate $100,000 per year, which went to the Environmental Defender's Office. This was an election commitment by our CLP government. We will not continue, Madam Speaker, to spend taxpayer dollars on activists and economic vandals and their disruptive agendas, Madam Speaker. We will redirect this funding to environmental initiatives on the ground with a focus on action, not activism. Unlike the Labor Party, we will spend Territorians' money wisely to protect our environment, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, there's been a lot of conversation over the last while about environment groups, and I've been very proud to meet with Landcare up here in Darwin, with Keep Top and Coast Healthy, Madam Speaker. I am one of the most green credentialed members in this place, Madam Speaker. I get out on my push bike, Madam Speaker, and deliver every bit of mail to all my electorates in the electorate of Breitling, and I know the Madam Speaker likes to get out there as well. I get out there on a Sunday morning with the community garden and shovel manure, Madam Speaker, to ensure that I am working with my community. I get out there and I do this, Madam Speaker, because I love the environment. I have chickens at home that munch on the very...
Take your seat, Minister. What's your point of order, member for Gwadja?
20, it's not April Fool's Day, member for Breitling and
take
Minister.
your seat.
Respond to the question. It's very direct. How do you justify?
Take your seat. You've got the call, Minister for Environment.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As I was saying, Madam Speaker, I take the seriousness, the protection of the environment very seriously. Everything I do throughout my life, whether it be riding my push bike to work whenever I can, or getting out there in the community and supporting these organisations to ensure that they can continue to grow. I have been in conversations with members from the community garden about how we can ensure the strength of that community organisation going forward. What I want to ensure, Madam Speaker, is that we are not funding environmental activist groups, but we are ensuring that there is real money going to organisations on the ground that want to genuinely help our environment. That's what this government will continue to do, Madam Speaker, and that is why I am bloody proud to be the Minister for Environment as part of this CLP government.
Member for Goyder, silence. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Mining and Energy. Minister, the nation, particularly in the East Coast, is in the gripe of an energy crisis, marked by gas shortages and soaring energy prices. In addition, the Treasurer has just informed us and the Territorians of the dire state of the budget, emphasising the importance of building enduring revenue streams for the Territory's future. Minister, your second trip to the Beetaloo underscores your strong commitment to driving the Territory's gas developments forward and bringing significant economic investment and royalties for Territorians. Minister, we know these investments represent a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Territorians and will secure a prosperous future for generations to come. Minister, can you please outline to the Assembly the work that the CLP government is doing to ensure these investments progress and bring affordable, reliable and secure energy for Territorians?
Minister for Mining and Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, the member for Goyder, for this important question, because I know you love your gas barbecues. Madam Speaker, this term of government will be defined by the first commercial gas production from the Beetaloo Sub-Basin, establishing a new source of revenue to the Northern Territory. A new source of revenue to the Northern Territory. They're very important words, Madam Speaker, because under the failed Labor government, we never got any new sources of revenue. In fact, mines dropped off and we lost revenue because of the policies by the former failed Labor government. They failed us in relation to the economy, they've certainly failed us in relation to the crime, and that's what, on August 24 last year, Territorians picked up on that and delivered a new government led by Leah Finocchiaro, who's going to protect the community and provide us with new sources of revenue. Gas represents a decade of energy security here in the Northern Territory. We know that in the next 20 years, Madam Speaker, some $17 billion and 6,000 jobs will come through gas royalties and associated employment in the gas industry to the Northern Territory. I'll say that again, Madam Speaker, $17 billion and 6,000 new jobs. 6,000. That's jobs, Madam Speaker, not to mention their families that come here. Because we know when people move to the Northern Territory, it's not only the gas industry that will benefit, it will be the hairdressers, it will be the mechanics, it will be the environment, because there will be more people in the population to be able to grow the population, to grow the economy. Again, we've got that circle going here. We're going to make the Territory a better place because of the gas industry here in the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, this year our government will see the first gas production from Empire Energy and new gas from Central Petroleum, providing vital gas to the generation and royalties for the future. We know, Madam Speaker, that mining, gas, agriculture, defence and tourism all rely upon gas, and they're 5 pillars that we need to grow our economy, and we are going to make sure that we give them certainty. We spoke about the action moving forward, and certainty is one of those words, and we're going to make sure that industry know that the Territory is a great place to do business because they can come here and invest their money, and there's going to be certainty in relation to gas supply, certainty in relation to public safety, and also certainly to that the population is going to grow because we are going to roll out the green carpet. We want to roll out the green carpet to make sure the Territory is the best place to do business. Madam Speaker, in our first 6 months, we have made providing energy security a top priority. The Territory resources, particularly in Armidales, Beetaloo and Black Tips, are a key to pulling ourselves out of this debt that the Labor government left us in. The Labor government left us in a massive debt, and we need to rely upon the gas, we need to rely on energy to pull us out of that, because we need those 6,000 jobs. We need that $17 billion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Casuarina.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Local Government. Minister, when I was the Chief Minister's Year of Action event on Monday, I was pleased to hear about our government's plan to take action in 2025 on local government's reform. Our CLP team, we want to empower people in the bush. Labor took away their control. Minister, I'm interested to hear more about our plans in 2025 to help Aboriginal people in the bush and how this important work has already started on Groote Eylandt.
Minister for Local Government.
Thank you, and thank you to the member for Casuarina, because, Madam Speaker, this is an opportunity to move forward in the bush, because over the last, we only got to go back to the 1st of July 2008, and that is fair and squarely etched in people's mind. And it was only 3 weeks ago, Madam Speaker, that I was over in Groote Eylandt, and there was one lady there, she would have been in her 70s, and there was one key moment that she raised with me, and she said, we can remember the 1st of July 2008, and she thanked us for bringing back the Groote Archipelago Regional Council. She said that this was an opportunity to get back and have community control that was taken away by the Labor government on the 1st of July 2008. What they did, they created super shires, but over the last 7 or 8 years, Madam Speaker, their platform was all about this so-called local decision-making. It's just been an exercise in spin, a concept that Labor has adopted over the last 8 years. It's nothing short of tokenistic virtue signalling. And the work that we're doing out bush, Madam Speaker, is to get out there, talk to the communities, talk about empowering communities, because having their power taken away back in 2008, this has been such a topical issue for many, many years. So, in stark contrast to the LDM process, Madam Speaker, we're committed to ensuring that communities have a real voice at the local level, so that communities are not only empowered, but they're making decisions in their communities. We know under Labor, communities lost their voice in 2008. There was approximately 56 community government councils. 7 municipal councils were amalgamated into 16 councils, 5 municipal, 8 regional and 3 shires. Madam Speaker, I've heard firsthand how those council amalgamations, alongside other policy changes, led to disempowerment in those communities. It wasn't just the disempowerment, Madam Speaker. When the government, the former government, the Labor Party, scrapped those community councils, they took away the leadership structures in those communities. That's the big thing that went missing. They took away the leadership structures in their communities. Madam Speaker, our commitment is to restore local control. We started with the Groote Archipelago. We've established a 3-ward system. That election will go ahead on the 15th of March this year, and as we move forward this year, we'll be changing legislation to continue that process.
Member for Arafura.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Arts. The Chief Minister in question time yesterday proclaimed that no one is going to visit the State Square Art Gallery. Minister, the Anti-Creative Industry Strategy 2020-2024 was led and developed by the NT Chamber of Commerce in recognition of how important the sector is to our economy. It identified that creative industries inject more than $700 million into the economy, employs thousands of Territorians, drives interstate and international visitors to the Territory. Minister, do you agree with the Chief Minister's assertion that no one cares about the arts, and this is a signal to the creative industry sector that the CLP won't be investing in them?
Minister for Arts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank Member for Arafura for the question. So I haven't heard, I think Chief Minister saying about there is no support for the art industry at all, but I think there were some comments that she made about the proposed art gallery structure in the Darwin. So I agree with the Chief Minister about the clear lack of planning and allocation of operational funding for the proposed art gallery by the previous Labour government. So, and also when it comes to the finances, Treasurer Bill Yan has clearly outlined to the Territorians about the current state of our economy. So Labour has left us on track to record the largest debt in Territory's history. And we have been lumbered with infrastructure we can't afford, and we have paid too much for, and with no operational budget to run. And the State Square Art Gallery is just one of those projects. It's not about I think the government is not caring about the arts industry. It's about individual projects that's not been allocated the right proper allocation of the budget, which is causing problem for this government because of the lack of planning and organization from the previous Labour government. So to give an example, the budget originally allocated as part of the 100 million State Square redevelopment for the art gallery was 47 million. And the current proposed cost will be at least 143 million to complete that project. And that's exactly what Chief Minister said. There was clear lack of planning from the previous government, and 47 million to 143 million is not just a clerical mistake or anything. It's clear incompetence of lack of understanding of how to plan and do the budget calculations. And on top of that, there was no clear budget allocation for any of the operational funding for the art gallery. So there were allocation for the museum and art gallery as the funding, but for this proposed art gallery, there was no funding allocated as well. But when it comes to this government, so we clearly says that art plays an important role in our community and serve as a place of belonging and provide a community for Territorians. More than 8 million is being spent this year on the arts program, which includes a new 5-year, $25 million investment, 2025 to 29, to support 30 organizations to deliver arts and cultural programs. In addition, more than 30 million has been spent over the past 4 years on Arts Trail Gallery Extension Program, which provides upgrades and expansions to galleries in the Northern Territory's regional and remote locations. So on top of this, Northern Territory government spends more than $10 million per year for the museum and art gallery of the Northern Territory. So clearly this government will be supporting the art industry, but we won't be supporting the projects with clear lack of planning and proposal forward.
Thank you, Minister. Member for Karama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations, responsible for aviation. Minister, as Territorians, we are all aware of the ongoing challenges related to connectivity, particularly in terms of air travel. Given the geographical isolation of the Northern Territory, connectivity is crucial for Territorians, businesses and industries alike. Can you please inform the House about the government's efforts to improve aviation connectivity within the NT? And how are these initiatives helping to enhance economic opportunities and support local businesses both across Australia and within the national markets? And that's a field I actually have a very strong personal passion for. Thank you.
Minister for Trade, Business and Asian Relations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Karama, for the question. Your experience in the business sector and as a long-term Territorian, I know you are very well placed to understand the challenges in this area and that you advocate very well on behalf of your constituents in this space. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to be able to update the House on the work our government is doing to develop ongoing connectivity to and within the Territory to provide all Territorians with a choice of affordable airfares and destination. As a government, we committed to help rebuild the economy and restore our Territory lifestyle, and that's what we're doing, and air connectivity is a critical component of this. And my team in the Department of Trade, Business and Asian Relations have been working incredibly hard over the past few months to actually see expansion in this space, which will see connectivity not just between Darwin and our nation, but between Darwin and our regions beyond our nation's borders, particularly into the Southeast Asian region. And I am absolutely thrilled to be able to table here in the House the achievements that have been made in the past few weeks. So everybody will be aware that Jetstar announced a new route between Darwin and the Gold Coast, which will be a seasonal route from June to October, which will see the opportunity for Territorians not just to take a holiday, but to take their business to Queensland. We've had lots of feedback about people being absolutely thrilled they don't have to catch the train from Brisbane to Coolangatta. But more importantly, it will bring tourists to the Territory at our peak season time. Qantas have added 95,000 seats to our routes within the from the Territory to our capital cities. That's in addition to the 84,000 seats they added in the previous 12 months. So we're going to see increased connectivity between Darwin and Brisbane, Darwin and Sydney, Darwin and Canberra, which is incredibly exciting. And they're also putting more seats between Darwin and Adelaide, which is very important to us because, as we know, Virgin unfortunately removed that flight, for which I took them to task just recently, and they are now reconsidering how they may be able to actually implement a flight between Darwin and Adelaide, now understanding just what the connection between Darwin and Adelaide is. But they did offset it with an additional 15,000 seats between Darwin and Brisbane and Darwin and Melbourne, which everybody will be pleased about. And the very exciting news was the announcement by AirAsia of direct flights to Bali. Everybody loves a holiday in Bali, and now we can travel there every single day of the week, either on AirAsia or Jetstar from the 22nd of March.
Member for Nightcliff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Corrections. Minister, the United Workers Union represents corrections officers and has a 100% membership rate, many of whom came and visited us yesterday to watch your government in action. You did not consult with them regarding your proposal to change legislation to contract out to private corrections officers. They have written to you asking for a meeting and to see the legislation. They have not received a response. Your complete dismissal of the union that represents every single corrections officer demonstrates that you and your government are simply using their safety as an excuse to privatise our prisons. Minister, will you respond to the United Workers Union, listen to their concerns and take on board their feedback in creating your corrections amendment?
Minister for Corrections.
Thank you. Member for Nightcliff, I'm not sure where you're getting your information from, but unfortunately I have to inform you that you're incorrect. Member for Nightcliff, the Commissioner for Corrections met with the union and, unfortunately, for reasons I'm not sure understanding why, they walked out. The information was there for a briefing and the Commissioner was going to brief the union, and I think within the first 5 to 10 minutes the union terminated that briefing and walked out. So there has been some offers in relation to this. And also, Madam Speaker, we are going to meet with the union because the union are important because we value the staff. We know that the previous Labor government over the last 8 years, Madam Speaker, completely neglected the prison system. And we know that the infrastructure is non-existent.
Take your seat, Minister. What's your point of order, Leader of Government Business?
Thinks that this is an opportunity to jump in and distract. I'm trying to hear the answer, Madam Speaker, but all I'm hearing is the opposition leader.
Look, there's been a fair amount of chitter-chatter from both sides, but if people could remain silent and give the Minister the opportunity to answer this very important question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's just a shame that the union weren't so vocal when the Labor were in power. We know, as I was touching on, how the Labor government failed the prison system. They failed to build infrastructure, they failed to build the staff, and yet it seems to be that when the CLP come in with a clear mandate to keep the community safe, the union now pipe their head up. We understand that the union are representing.
Point of order, member for Nightcliff.
Yeah, 110. I'm not asking about Labor and I'm not asking about the Commissioner. Thanks for your concern about where I get my information from, but unlike you, I actually speak to unions. I am asking Will you respond to
Member for
them? and will you
Nightcliff,
meet with
can
them?
you just hold there? You do not use a point of order to give a lecture or pass on new information. If you've got a point of order, make it clear or sit down. Now, what's your point of order?
My point of order was 110 relevance. I don't care about Labor. I just want to answer to the question. Will you respond to the United Workers Union letter and meet with them?
He's got plenty of time, Minister.
Great.
Answer the question. Thank you.
So, Madam Speaker, yes, we will respond to the union, but I just want to really make it very clear,
Silence.
Madam Speaker, that we are not privatising the prison system. What we are doing is we're making a more flexible workforce. We know under the Labor government they failed to make the workforce, and there's been cries from the union for many months now that they're overworked and understaffed because the Labor government failed to plan. They failed to plan for community safety. And Madam Speaker, the legislation is not very complicated. And in fact, what we're talking about is doing what the police have done for many years, doing what happens interstate for many years. We're just giving the Commissioner some powers to have special corrections officers who are qualified and trained and are experienced to do the job. These aren't just going to be little Johnnies down the street. These are going to be professional people who do it interstate, who do it for a living because they got reputations. This is about in making sure that the workforce is reinforced.
Take your seat, Minister. Member for Daly.
Thank you. 110 relevance. I will just note there was two parts to the question. One was being I respond to the letter, and the other being will he meet with the unions? There's still 10 seconds for the Minister to answer that question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Look, we will respond to the unions. This is an operational matter. We are going to make sure that the union know what's going on. We've offered everyone in this chamber a briefing, and we want to do the job that Labor failed to do.
Member for Fanny Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is for the Minister for Infrastructure and Logistics. So those people that know me know that I've listened to my constituents in the Fanny Bay electorate. I've spoken to people from all sides of the political spectrum, those who voted Labor, those who voted Liberal, those who voted Greens or Independent. I've spoken to them all and listened. What I've heard them say is that the cost of living in Fanny Bay is something that they are very concerned about. I talked to them at the markets, I talked to them in my electorate office. I am very, very proud to be part of a team that takes cost of living very seriously. And one of these measures are changes that we've made to our MVR, which are saving Territorians both time and money. Whilst we all know that licences are not the most expensive thing in a person's or a family's budget, what we do know is that every little bit counts. Our free licence and 3-year trailer registration has been a huge hit in constituents in the Fanny Bay electorate, providing relief to household budgets.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. The time has expired to ask a question.
It has. Indeed. Please
Can the Minister
take your
provide
seat.
an update on this?
It's too late. Sit down. Member for Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Treasurer. Treasurer, we heard last week that your fiscal recovery plan hinges on projects like Barossa. Given that Barossa is offshore in Commonwealth waters and royalties are collected by the Commonwealth Government, can you please outline how much revenue the NT Government budget, not the gross state budget, or any other measure, will get from Barossa and in what time frame? Thank you.
Treasurer.
I thank the member for the question. And yes, the member is correct. The gas from the Barossa is coming offshore, so we don't see much in the way of royalties for that. The royalties for that go to the Commonwealth. Where we do see some benefit is from those people that are employed with Santos here in the Northern Territory, because I've mentioned earlier today about our payroll tax and how we actually do well out of the revenues on that. So through Santos and the work that they do and the people that they employ, we see some revenues coming to the Territory through their payroll tax, but not just from Santos either. We also see taxation revenue coming from wages from those other companies that support Santos who have bills over $2.5 million. So yes, whilst we don't see a lot of royalties from Santos, they go federally, and the feds don't see some of that either because some of that gas is extracted from international waters. We do see some revenue come through from taxation and, of course, the other revenue generated within our economy for the work that Santos does. Thank you.
Member for Fanny Bay.
Excuse me, he didn't answer the question.
It's too late, Member for Johnston. The Minister's answered the question to his satisfaction and he sat down. Member for Fanny Bay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, My question is to the Minister for Infrastructure and Logistics. Can you please provide the House with an update around our overwhelming successful MVR initiatives?
Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Fanny Bay for her question. And I also recognise that the member for Fanny Bay came out recently when we've done some media on this, and it's great to hear that the residents of Fanny Bay are talking to you and are being very responsive to the changes that we've made. But, Madam Speaker, it's no secret that families across the Territory, in fact right across the country, are feeling the pinch on their household budgets through cost of living. And we know with the rising cost of living, small expenses add up quickly, but every little saving that we can make, every little piece of work that the government can do to reduce those costs helps. And we're committed to working where we can to ease the burden on the people of the Territory, to take some of the pressure off and help our community get back to enjoying our Territory lifestyle. And, Madam Speaker, the CLP is delivering on its election commitment to ease the cost of living pressures for Territorians by freezing car registration fees for 12 months, providing free driver's licences for a year and enabling 3-year trailer registrations, which in effect reduces some administrative burdens, of course, on MVR because they only have to do it once. So MVR actually save a little bit of work there, but also makes it much easier for the people getting those trailers registered. And the former Labor government, Madam Speaker, actually increased registration fees by over $100 during their time. We're providing real relief to Territorians who are now left struggling with grocery bills, childcare, power costs and other cost of living pressures left by the previous Labor government. The CLP is committed to not raise fees on light vehicle registrations until the 1st of July 2026. And, Madam Speaker, the data speaks for itself when it comes to our 1-year free licence commitment. In just over a month, Madam Speaker, we've seen over 13,700 licence holders across the Territory take up this offer. That is thousands of dollars saved across the Territory in household budgets for everyday Territorians. It's clear that these are initiatives. It's clear that these initiatives are initiatives that Territorians want to see from our government. And of course, I must thank the dedicated MVR staff for all the hard work they've done in making this possible, because we had that little bit of a break between Christmas and New Year's when everything was open, and they got absolutely hammered by people coming in to get their free licences. So I must thank them for their all-important work that they've done. And the delivery on these election commitments, Madam Speaker, will save Territorians time, money, meaning less time spent at MVR and more time being able to enjoy our unique Territory lifestyle. And of course, under the program, people can apply for their free licences up until 30 June 2025. So if you haven't done so yet, I urge all Territorians to get out there and take up this all-important offer.
Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I move that any further questions be put on the written notice paper.